Hey guys, this is Sergeant Phoenix back in the action, and today we are doing another Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile. This deck and a few others I've been working on for a while, and I've instantly just started working because I've got some cards from eBay. The Adignisters that I uses in the last bits of Vrains, and I'm a huge fan of I from the Vrain series. So let's go. Now this deck is Rex Goodwin's deck on the final 3 episodes, I believe it is. Yeah. Where he uses his earthbound immortal Rosca and his sun and moon dragons, which is the base archetype of his deck, since he uses light and he's the balance between light and darkness for a villain. And I actually kind of liked him as a villain. You know, when he took the way he progressed into one. You know, he said exactly what everyone would say. In the end, good always wins against evil. But then after everything happens, good and evil fight again, and then good wins again. It happens again. It's a cycle that doesn't end. He wanted to end the cycle by using both light and darkness. Using the darkness to destroy the world, then using the powers of the light to recreate the world in his image for him to control. Which just shows you that he's nuts. You know, if he could, you know, personally, if I had the powers of light and darkness, I would have kept to myself, really. If balance goes too strong on one side, I fix it. You know, light and dark, either way, I have to fix it. You know, I could cause a war, bring peace, whatever. So let's focus on the deck. First we have 3 Oracle of the Suns, which was, I think, the first monster he actually summoned, so I wanted to choose that. If your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. When this card on the field is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 Fire and Ascator or Soup A from your deck to your hand. So, like Cyber Dragon, if I don't control monsters but my opponent does, I can special summon it. And next is the Tuna monster, Fire Ant Ascator. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 level 5 monster in your graveyard to special summon that target, but its effects are negated. Also send it to the graveyard during the end of this turn. So if I have these two together, I could summon Sun Dragon out because it's a level 8. Just organise this. Next we have some of the latest cards that were made for the deck. Next we have Ascator Dawnwalker, and I have 2 copies of it. You can discard 1 card, special summon this card from your hand in defense position. Then you can special summon 1 Fire Ant Ascator from your hand or deck. You cannot summon monsters from the extra deck the turn you activate this effect, except Synchro monsters, and you can only use the effects of this once per turn. There is another one that, this is based for Ascator for Sun Dragon, the other one's for Super, which is the other tuner, which is I'm going to show, for Moon Dragon. So first let's introduce you to Super, the tuner for the Moon, which is a Fiend tuner. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard by card effect, you can special summon 1 Oracle of the Sun from your deck, and if you do, double its attack. Also return it to the hand during the end of this turn. And here is the Super Duskwalker. And you'll notice with the patterns, if I show you the... Because of those who don't know this card, because sometimes people do like to look for the inner details. You'll notice with these two, if I show it, that has the symbol of Super, and that is the symbol of the sun. You know, if you look for the inner details, and the shading does show moon and, you know, light and darkness, so like the moonlight and the sunlight. So it's why I'm waiting mostly for a deck that uses like a goat type of spellcaster. You know, like the satanic. Like, I know the satanic goat, which is a symbol for Satanism and black magic. I don't know fully because but I've only seen like shows and stuff, and they say that the goat represents it's like a deity of nature representing the balance, light and dark, good and evil, man and female. And I know this from a Wi-Fi, but I don't know if it's, you know, I don't study black magic and stuff, but it does look quite intriguing to me. Well, back to the profile. Next is the Tricker, and this is one Atem used in the last duel he had against Yugioh on the last episodes. The first monster he summoned, and its effect is you can special summon this card from your hand by discarding one card. So if I've got two, I discard, special summon straight away. There is a spell card for this actually. It's a tricky one, I can't remember what it's called. But if I have a tricky monster, I contribute it, and then I can summon tricky tokens, which are like this, up to the same number of monsters my opponent controls. So if I have 4, he has 4, or she has 4, I have 4 monsters, which is how Atem used it, and then sacrifice 3 of them to summon Obelisk the Tormentor. Next we have Summoner Monk. While this card face up on the field, it cannot be tributed. If this card is normal or flip summon, change it to defense position. Once per turn, you can discard one spell card, special summon one level 4 monster from your deck, but that monster cannot attack this turn. Next we have 2 copies of Wicked Acolyte Chilam Sabak, I think the name is, I can't pronounce it. And its effect is, if you have 5 or more cards in your hand, you can normal summon this card without tributing. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this card in defense position, and if you do, it is treated as a tuner. You can only use the effect of Wicked Acolyte Chilam Sabak once per turn, and its levels are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You couldn't really use this for the Synchro since it's only Moon and Sun Dragon because it's 6 and 8. But you could use it for an Earthbound. You could use it for summoning the Earthbound Immortal Raska that Goodwin has in the deck. Next we have Apocatacuel, I think it's pronounced. While this card face up on the field, it is a level 5. If you control a face up tuner monster, you can. When this card on the field is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can select one special. You can select and special summon Oracle of the Sun from your graveyard. Next we have Ash Blossom, the Jawa Spirit, which is a tuner. When a card or effect is activated that includes any of these effects, quick effect, you can discard one card and negate that effect. So the first effect you can negate, add a card from the deck to the hand. Second effect, it can negate, special summon from the deck. The third effect, send a monster from your deck to the graveyard. You can only use one of the 3 effects. You can only use one of the 3 effects, and that's once per turn. Next we have Effect Veiler, which is a tuner as well. During your opponent's main phase, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, then target one face-up effect monster your opponent controls. Negate your opponent's face-up monster's effect until the end of this turn. This is a quick effect. So let's say your opponent was going to use, let's say, a Ra's ability. I don't know, let's say Ra's ability, since it has no attack points and was to drain all of his life points, but 100 to power it up to attack you, you could use that effect to stop it. You know, it would buy you some time at least. And next we have Cyber Dragon, which everyone should know its effect, but if you don't, I'll explain. If your opponent controls monsters and you don't, special summon from the hand. It doesn't say if you don't, but you know, that is pretty much what it means. Next we have the signature monster, Earthbound Immortal, Wirakucha Raska. I can only say Raska, but I know it's Kucha, I know it's a Kusha in the end of the phrase. And all Earthbound Immortals have similar, almost the same effects, but an extra one that makes them unique. The first effect and this is what I'm going to say, all their effects are. There can only be one Earthbound Immortal monster on the field. If there is no face-up field spell on the field, destroy this card. Your opponent cannot target this card for attacks, and this card can attack directly. And that is every Earthbound Immortals effect. If you ever look at Earthbound Immortal decks, they all have those 3 similar effects. Need a field spell to stay on. Can't be targeted for you can only have one earthbound immortal, no matter which one it is on the field. Cannot be attacked and can declare direct attacks against your opponent. But this card's signature effect, which keeps it different, what makes it different from the other earthbounds, if this card is normal summon, target 1 or 2 free cards you control, but no more than your opponent has in their hand. Shuffle them into the deck, then discard the same number of random cards from your opponent's hand, or as many as possible. If you do, this card gains 1000 attack for each card discarded by this effect. So if I if I shuffle 3 cards back into the deck and I make my opponent discard 3 cards, if they've got that many in the hand enough, if they have that many in the hand, I can make this monster's attack points 3,100, then attack my opponent directly. But Earthbound Immortals, they have all this strength. It's good that you can use them to cripple your opponent if you're gonna stop them from attack. If your opponent relies solely on attacks, but they can still be targeted and effects can still be used on them. Next we have Mausoleum of the Emperor. We're finally up to our spell cards. During either player's main phase, the turn player can pay 1000 life points x the number of monsters normally needed to tribute summon of a monster, maxed 2. So let's say I need to summon Earthbound Immortal, requires 2 monsters, I pay 2000 life points, I can summon it without tributing. That player normal summon or set that monster without tributing. If this is the one normal summon set for that turn, this is not a tribute summon. Next we have Monster Reborn. Lets you special summon, target a monster in either player's graveyard and special summon it to your side of the field. Monster Reincarnation. Discard 1 card, add a monster from your graveyard to your hand. Dark Ruler No More, which negate the effect of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls until the end of this turn. Also, for the rest of this turn, after this card's resolved, your opponent takes no battle damage. Neither player can activate monster effects in response to this card's activation. Next we have Monster Gate. Tribute 1 monster, excavate cards from your top of your deck until you excavate a monster that can be normal summoned or set. Special summon it. Also send the other excavated cards to the graveyard. Twin Twister. You can discard 1 card, target up to 2 spell and trap cards on the field and destroy them. 1 for 1. Discard 1 card and special summon a level 1 monster from your hand or deck. Scapegoat. It lets you special summon 2 tokens that have 0 attack and defense, earth attributes, and the beast types. Your opponent, and they go in defense mode. And they cannot be tributed for a tribute summon, and you can't special summon other monsters the turn you activate this card. But you can normal set. And that is a quick effect. Next we have our traps. Solemn Judgment. When a monster's effect would be activated, or a spell. So any effect that would be activated, you can pay half your life points to negate the summon or activation, and if you do, destroy that card. The Judgment spells are actually, I like the Judgment spells. If you're someone who can gain enough life points and have enough to drain them to get rid of some, they are good cards. Solemn Wishes I would definitely add if you're going to build a solemn deck, because every time it's your turn, every time you draw a card or cards, you'll gain 500 life points for every turn. And then I would also put in, if you're paying life points, Life Absorbing Machine. So during your standby phase, you'll gain life points equal to half of what you paid that on the last turn. So let's say I used Solemn Judgment and I gave up 4,000 life points. So on my turn, I gain 500 because of Solemn Wishes, and then 2,000 more thanks to Life Absorbing Machine. A duelist on the original series called Lecter did that when he used Injection Furry Lily for a life point strategy. But there was a major flaw with his strategy. And it could work easily with our today rules because we use 8,000. But the main flaw with strategies like them, if you're playing originally with 4,000, you have to have your life points higher than 2,000 no matter what to activate all of your best cards. So you need your life points to always stay higher than 2,000. And if your opponent can't keep the life points higher than 2,000, their entire strategy goes completely down. Because he used Imperial Order, Fairy Lily, Solemn Wishes, and Life Absorbing Machine. So when he lost it, when his life points went up to 800, he gained 500, then another 350 thanks to Life Absorbing Machine, but he had to pay 700 life points if he wants Imperial Order to stay in effect. But he couldn't afford to pay that much, so he got rid of it. So like I said, if a player uses that strategy, you have to have other cards that keep your life points higher. Because if you can't, your entire strategy will be completely down. But he used Satellite Cannon as well, to try and stall for time. Anyway, back to the traps. Drowning Mirror Force, and when your opponent declares a direct attack, shuffle all your opponent's attack position monsters into the deck. Magic Cylinder, I've done enough deck profiles with this card to know what happens. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, target the attacking monster, negate the attack, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its attack. So if my opponent uses a monster with 8,000 attack, use that, stop the attack, inflict 8,000 life points to them. And that's an instant KO if it's the very beginning of the duel, unless they've gained more life points. Next we have Call the Haunted. Activate this card by targeting one monster in your graveyard. Special summon that target in attack position. When this card leaves the field, destroy that monster. When the target is destroyed, destroy this card. So if one goes, the other has to go with it. Next we have Threatening Roar. Your opponent cannot declare an attack this turn. Red Reboot. When an opponent activates a trap card, negate the activation. If you do, set that card face down. Then they can set one other trap directly from their deck for the rest of the turn. After this card resolves, your opponent cannot activate trap cards. You can only use the effect of this card from your hand by pay. Hold on, you can activate this card from your hand by paying half your life points. And I like decks like that. I like traps that you can play in your hand. Zone had them as well. I believe they're out now. Well, some of them. If you control no monsters, you can play them in your hand. You can play some of the traps in the hand, so you don't have to set them. Next we have Debunk. When a monster effect is activated in the hand or graveyard, negate the activation. If you do, banish it. And now we're getting up to the synchros. First I will introduce 3 copies of the Sun Dragon Inti, which is a level 8 with 3,000 attack points and 2,800 defense points. This requires Fire Ant Ascator for its tuner and 1+ non-tuner monsters. If this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, destroy the monster that destroyed this card, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half of its attack that monster had on the field. Once per turn during the standby phase for the next turn after this card on the field was destroyed, you can target Moondragon Queer from your graveyard, special summon the target. Which is this, the Moondragon Queer. And you'll see that the Light and Darkness, if you've never seen Rex Goodwin's deck, which this deck represents the balance of darkness and night. Him using the powers of a signer for the light, and the dark signers meaning darkness, which are what the earthbounds are. The earthbounds immortals are the dark signer's signature cards for the king. And I know that they represented the Nazca lines. I don't know where they are because I didn't study much on them, but the Nazca lines are like massive stone placings that are actually put across a massive field. There's Kokapakapu, Uru, Asilapisku, Kokarayu, and in the Quechua language, Kokapakapu means the astronaut. Asilapisku, I believe, means the hummingbird. Kokaraya, I believe, means the lizard. And I know Uru means the spider. And Uru was the leader of the Darksiders who Roman used, and he used a spider deck, which actually did make sense if he's using a, spider earthbound immortal. And these monsters are literally massive. If the world ever made them into holographic forms, they would literally be the size of a tall building, which would freak anyone out if that was if they actually turned that into a virtual reality system. Which I'm hoping Yu-Gi-Oh gets into for the public. I think it would work if they use Zexal kind of technology for augmented reality. You can't actually, so you can actually wear an eyepiece where where you sync into another player, and it has all the data from like a white signal that connects to a hard drive that has the holographic projections of every card that's been created, and it'll also give you updates for new cards every year, I think. Which I think if they did that, if they did it like Zexal, it would be good. And they make dual discs that work with the system as well. Not like Zexal ones, but maybe looking like the originals, but having more style to them. Maybe like the Dark Side of Dimensions dual disc. Comment down below if you think that would be a good idea. Zexal augmented reality eyepieces using a Wi-Fi, like an internet signal from a main hard drive, that are placed everywhere, in like massive regions. They can connect to those signals, and they use like a very significant dual disc that works with extra monster zones like Dark Side of the Dimension kind of styled. I think if they worked on something like that, they could Konami its profits would double in overnight. Everyone would want a system like that. So I'll focus on the last two. Moondragon Queer, which is the dark attribute dragon with 2,500 attack points and 2,000 defense points. And this needs Super as its tuner and 1+ non-tuner monsters. If this card is targeted for an attack, gain life points equal to half the attacking monster's attack. So if an opponent has a monster with 3,000 and it attacks me, I gain 1,500, so I'll only lose 500. If this card on the field is destroyed, you can target one Sun Dragon entity from in your graveyard, special summon that target. So as you see, get rid of one, I have the other. Get rid of that, I got the other. Unless you banish them, but if I get Spurs out, I pretty much got I can just keep you on a loop, which it's what I like about Rex Goodwin's deck. Put the Earthbound Immortal on the field, have your Moon and Dragons already ready, charge for an attack. He did use Earthbound Immortal cards, offerings to the Immortal. I didn't add that one on because I didn't. You could add it in because if your life points are lower than 3,000, you can. 3,000 or lower, your opponent declares an attack. You can negate the attack, summon 2 tokens, then you add an Earthbound Immortal from your deck to your hand. Then on your turn you could sacrifice them to summon Vraska. But I think like I was saying about the virtual reality system, I think if Konami did that, instantly they'd make a fortune with that idea. Having your eyepieces like Zexal, improves Dark Side Dimension style dual discs, and having that use real cards. And if they got lucky, if they actually did make it like a Vrains kind of world, I would actually apart, as long as they don't do the whole Sword Art Online thing where we all get trapped and have to beat the game in order to survive. To make it back home. If they did that, I'd be terrified. I would instantly be training. And be looking for ways to keep my save up a ton of life points. They could probably, if they ever did that, they could probably build like a forest where you can gain life points in this water. It goes back to your original 8,000. But when you win against a duelist, they could have like friendly zones where you can practice training, but it won't But it won't delete anyone. But again, if they did that, I would officially be terrified. And I would be instantly going rogue. On my own team. Unless they actually start building guilds up, which it wouldn't surprise me with those teams. It wouldn't surprise me if that happened like Sword Art Online, they would become bandits who kill other players just to stay in that world forever. It'd be like the Big Five all over again. When their minds got trapped in the virtual world for so long, they lost their bodies because they weren't put into medical areas. Because on Sword Art Online, when they went there, everyone fell asleep. Were unconscious for a while because their bodies were being moved to hospitals to keep them stable. So they had it. So they would feed you. They probably feed you through tubes and stuff as long as to keep you alive and make sure you were clean. Which I cannot imagine the pressure the hospitals are going to having all those people. But there were thousands of people on Sword Art until they managed to beat the game. A lot of people did lose their lives who were just young as well. Well, hopefully, let's just hope that never happens, best way. Overall, this deck, I like it. It's a good practice if you want to get used to synchros, and if you like your Earthbound Immortals, it's a good one to use. Raska's not the best one. I would, if I had my own personal deck and I was to use an Earthbound, I would use Uru, because I can tribute a monster and take control of one of my opponent's monsters. And then I could use a virus against... And I could use a virus if I don't have Layer of Darkness on, but I'd need it on. But if I wanted to deal some damage to my opponent, I could just use his monsters against him. Overall, comment on what you thought of this deck profile. What would you add into this deck, or what would you take out? And what would you... And what other decks would you have? I'm working lately on gimmick puppets, as I've said, and the Adignisters I've mentioned. I've got most of them now. I just need the most expensive ones: Doyon, Pickery, Ichichi, Island, and Dark Templars. But the rest I've got like that, because I know someone was selling them on eBay for a really good price. But comment down below if you do. I've already had a look at other people's deck profiles on the Adignisters because they've got all the expensive cards with the other ones, and they do look really good. I's deck just works well with a lot of combinations you can think of. Even ones that don't need, the Cybus. No, sorry, ones that don't need Cybuses or any specific types you can use to summon them. But you could use it on, say, Utopia, on Synchros, Xyz, Fusions. You could add it to nearly every deck. You could use almost every extra deck monster available, as long as some of them... But the links would solely have to work on Cybus if possible. Which, to be fair, Yusaku's deck, or Playmakers, works really well on. Again, I should end this video. Comment down below on what you thought of this deck. What would you change? What did you like? What cards did you like on this? And what other decks you want me to profile if you have any requests. But until then, this is Sergeant Phoenix, over and out.